This is my first entry in a little series I'm going to do about building a music visualizer. I've wanted to do this for years. Music visualizers have sort of gone away, and the tools to make them that exist on the Mac aren't getting any love and seem to be going away as well. I knew that building this music visualizer was going to be a YouTube video, but it turned out to be a little bit harder to get started than I thought. So today I'm discussing what I plan to do. I want to build a music visualizer for any song, not just a video or for one song. So it's not going to be choreographed. I want this to work for any song that I throw at it. And I also want to use code to do it. Specifically, I'd like to use Swift Playgrounds. I haven't played enough in Swift Playgrounds, so I think it would be really great if I had a playground to start with a simple visualizer and maybe expand on that later. And it doesn't have to be a full-blown app to begin with, and it's easier to share too. Now, I just want to point out there are easier ways to do this. I started looking at YouTube tutorials on how to make a music visualizer on a Mac. There are definitely tools out there like Blender that are well suited to this, especially if you're going to make a 3D music visualizer. And most visualizations are in some way 3D. But I really didn't need 3D. I'd like a really simple visualization. And I'm also not a fan of this drag and drop interface that so many of these animation tools force you into. Code is my thing, so I'd like to use code. And so what do I need? I need music that I can publish on YouTube, right? That's most important. And I also need a way to analyze audio to build a music visualizer. If I'm going to turn audio into something visual, I need to know what's going on in the audio to make that visualizer. So that's why I started looking around at what my options are. I would love to use Apple Music. I'm a big fan of Apple, and I know that Apple released Music Kit some time ago along with Apple Music so that apps and websites can let you sign in with your Apple Music account and let you play music. Now, the problem is that DRM is sort of complicated with Apple Music, since this is going to YouTube, and it's not obvious to me what I can and can't use in a YouTube video. So that's a problem. Another problem is that I couldn't find anywhere in the API that would allow me to analyze the audio I'm playing using Music Kit. It's letting me play music, but certainly not modify the track and not inspect it or analyze it. The other thing that I discovered that was disappointing is that iTunes, that's now been renamed and rewritten as the Music app, does have visualizers in it, and it used to be that you could use a tool called Quartz Composer that came with the Mac to make your own custom iTunes visualizer, just like you could make your own custom Mac screensaver. And Quartz Composer has been deprecated, and as far as I can tell, there's not a meaningful way to still use it. And so that would have been similar to a tool like Blender, but at least it would have allowed me to use Apple Music, and it would have been built right into iTunes. That would have been a really cool way to build a visualizer, but that's pretty much dead. And so what I found instead was AudioKit. AudioKit is a Swift package that can analyze any audio amongst a bunch of other stuff it can do. It's really meant for apps like a DJing app or audio composition app, but one of the things that it does is analyze audio. What's great is that it's made for Swift, it's written largely in Swift, and it's also really well suited to playgrounds. All of their examples are Swift playgrounds. So that was really exciting because I'd like to do this in playgrounds. AudioKit has examples in playgrounds. It seemed like a perfect fit. The problem I encountered is that the current release is AudioKit 4, but their next release is AudioKit 5. And they're pushing everyone, as you would, to use AudioKit 5 if you're building something new, but they haven't quite got all the examples to AudioKit 5 yet. All their examples now use CocoaPods, and you still have to be able to install AudioKit 4, and now I'm stuck because AudioKit 4 doesn't want to install on my computer. It might be because I'm using the new MacBook Pro that came out with the ARM chip. I don't really know exactly why it won't install. It seems like it's a bit more complicated than your typical dependency, but that's the reality of using dependencies. When I'm not going to use what comes with the Apple frameworks to analyze audio, I need some way of installing AudioKit in my playground or in my app to start playing around with it. And so at this point, I can't even get the examples to work. And that's when I decided, I really should start recording what this experience is like. I'm not new to this. I've been writing code for a long time, and yet pretty quickly I got stuck trying to do what seemed like a pretty simple thing to get started with this project. So this happens, and normally I would just push through and find a way to start with AudioKit 5 without getting these examples running, just looking at the documentation. But I thought it'd be interesting to record how hard it's been just to get started with something that seems like it should be pretty easy. I also tried, a playground from Apple that lets you play with sound, but even that was too buggy, too basic, and too boring for me. So I sat back and I thought about it. What do I do next? I'm stuck with AudioKit. I don't have any great examples of how to do this from Apple. Apple's deprecated Quartz Composer and iTunes visualizations are either going away or transitioning to something new, probably to Metal. What can I actually do next? What can I do now? And I decided that what I really need is a design. What if my visualizer was a rainbow? I'm not a big fan of most visualizers that have this sort of ethereal or cloudy effect to them. There's no real well-defined shapes or lines. It's just patterns that exist in this glowing dark world. And I wanted something bright that has sharp lines, sharp shapes, so that you could really tell it's moving with the music. And I also want something simple that I can build in 2D, because I mostly make interfaces, so I know really well how to work in 2D. This is the concept of my design. I don't have anything to show that works because I really haven't even started building the project yet. But this is what I'm thinking of. What I want is a rainbow of 6 horizontal color bars where each color's height would vary with the music. So maybe purple here is the low range of the frequencies. If you have heavy bass each time a drum gets hit, that purple bar would get taller and everything else would shrink. And likewise for the high frequencies, red might be the highest frequency range. If you have a really high frequency part of the song, that red would get bigger and everything else would shrink. And of course, all the color bars are competing for space on the screen. But then I realized that could get pretty boring because you may have, in any given song, one part of the frequency range really dominating most of the others. And so let's say most of the frequencies land in the blue and purple area, you're not going to see much action from the rest of the color bars. And so I thought, what if I could rotate these colors kind of like this as a conveyor belt at the speed of the song so that the color that gets bigger changes even though it might always be whatever color is near the bottom of the screen. And that started to seem really cool to me. So now I'm sort of excited about building this music visualizer, but now I'm wondering, can I even do this? Can I do it quickly? If this takes 3 months to build just to make one YouTube video, it's not that interesting to me. I want to have a side project that I'm not devoting all my time to. That's really what's going to come next, is scoping this project so that I can do it quickly, and I can put something out there that I enjoy building and maybe someone learns from.